The message after the tone.
Yo, 148, 3 to the 3 to the 6 to the 9, representing the ABQ. What up, biatch? Leave it at the tone.
Chemistry is the study of matter, but I prefer to see it as the study of change.
Mr. White? Mr. White? You understood what I've just said to you.
Yeah. Lung cancer. Inoperable. The DEA took all your money, your lab. You got nothing. Square one. But you know the business. And I know the chemistry.
Now normally I'd say someone did the world a favor. But our snitch's car, turns out we find 2 grams of meth in it.
Where'd you get this? I know you little punk ass didn't cook it.
We take it to the lab. They come back, they tell us it is the purest they've ever seen.
99.1%.
I mean, our chemist is blown away, said he couldn't do the same thing better. Worse yet, it didn't come out of some super lab in Mexico. We're thinking this was cooked right here in the land of enchantment. The car was abandoned in what appears to be a cook site. This is the only other thing left behind, so be on notice. We got new players in town.
If you catch me at the border, I got visas in my name. If you come around here, I'll make them all day. I get one down in a second if you wait. I fly like paper, get high like planes. If you catch me at the border, I got visas in my name. If you come around here, I'll make them all day. I get one down in a second if you wait. Sometimes I think sitting on trains. Every step I get to, I'm clocking that game. Everyone's a winner, we're making our fame. Bonafide hustler, making my name. Sometimes I think sitting on trains. Every step I get to, I'm clocking that game. Everyone's a winner, we're making our fame. Bonafide hustler, making my name. All I wanna do is take your money. All I wanna do is take your money. All I wanna do is take your money. All I wanna do is take your money.
The pilot episode of Breaking Bad originally aired on January 8, 2008. The President of the United States was Barack Obama. Breaking Bad was written and directed by Vince Gilligan, whose work includes The X-Files, The Gunman, and he's currently working on Better Call Saul. Vince does a fantastic job with mise-en-scene. Mise-en-scene is French for placing on stage. Basically every aspect that is in front of the camera. It includes actors, set, costumes, plotline, sub-stories, and anything else that is there. That's the mise-en-scene. And Vince Gilligan's attention to detail on the pilot of Breaking Bad definitely helped to create this world that was worthy of 5 seasons and the admiration of millions of viewers. I am now one of them, so millions and one. The opening scene, it's images of a desert, and it creates this very serene environment, and it's abruptly broken by a flying pair of pants and chase music. It lets us know as a viewer that someone is literally about to be caught with their pants down. As the action continues, the viewers are introduced to Walt. He is wearing nothing but a pair of tighty-whities and a Casio calculator watch. At this point in the episode, we're made to feel through a video he makes on a handy cam to his family that he's completely given up and ready to die. The entire opening scene is then halted for a flashback of the last 3 weeks. By using this technique, Gilligan creates questions for the viewer that will hopefully be answered throughout the episode. We're convinced to keep watching through the credits and the first commercial break without having any attachment to the characters or involvement in their lives. Nicely done. When it starts back up, Walt awakes 3 weeks in the past, and we're given a porthole to his life. He's waking up at 5 a.m. to exercise on an infomercial device set up in a non-finished nursery. It's begun but not completed. Paint samples are hanging, and we get this glimpse of a Nobel Prize plaque from 1985 and a teaching award. They're hanging on the wall, and they tell us and remind him that his glory days may be over. Walt White is clearly in the dark at this point. And this is how he starts his 50th birthday.
Happy birthday.
At the breakfast table, a plate of eggs and veggie bacon greet him, and this displays that his wife Skylar is starting to be concerned for his aging health with the veggie bacon. And it's also where we meet Walt Jr., their physically handicapped son. He's a young man with a fun, smart-ass personality. And he does bring to our attention that the family has some money issues, and their water heater has been broken for some time. This is a necessity that most people need or want is hot water, and for this to be going on this long lets us know that with the new pregnancy there are money issues. After breakfast, it jumps to Walt teaching his chemistry class, and he's got a bit more vigor than we've seen yet. While having this great moment of connection with his students, Walt discusses how he perceives chemistry as matter that's in a constant cycle of change. Solution, dissolution, growth, and decay, then transformation. As his excitement builds, he is interrupted by this rude student named Chad. He has this need to disrupt the class, but by doing that, what he does is he pulls power from the character, and all the attention is then put on him, and the connection with the students is broken. We then see Walt eating lunch on his birthday alone. When school finishes, he attends his second job. He's a desk jockey at a car wash where he rings people up and hands them an air freshener. His boss enters and he sends him out to the floor to scrub wheels. We find out that this has been a subject of discontent for Walt, his wife, because it has been discussed with the boss before. He does hunker down, he puts his head down, he goes out to scrub the wheels, and we see his birthday just spiral into this 12-hour day of humiliation. As he's scrubbing the wheels on this Corvette, we learn that, of course, this Corvette is owned by the same rude student from class, Chad. And Chad takes the opportunity to photo his chemistry teacher scrubbing tires in the same clothes, but what he's really doing is he's pulling the power away, completely decimating the ego of this man. To end the day, Walt drives home late after his second job to a waiting surprise party filled with partygoers that seem to have absolutely no interest in the guest of honor. He's given this backhanded toast from his brother-in-law, and at the end of the toast, Walt's drink is actually taken out of his hand and drank by the giver of the toast. It's another instance where power is taken from Walt and a very crucial point, and the spotlight is then turned to another character. The character that it's turned on is Walt's brother-in-law. He is a DEA agent, and he's getting some publicity right now from the local news for a meth bust that everyone's gathering around to watch. But the important thing is, here's where Walt learns of the meth industry and is given an invitation to join the DEA on a drug bust. He turns it down. Walt's day ends with a left-handed hand job from his right-handed wife while she's shopping online, and tells him everything is about him as she pulls power because she won whatever she was bidding on. That was the end of his 50th birthday. What a great day. And then he goes into his weekend. His weekend starts out at the car wash. So here's our hero sent back out to scrub tires, but what happens, he catches a glimpse of this young girl in a green dress. The green dress is important, and things do start to go bad. Walt collapses. He wakes up in an ambulance. He's on his way to the hospital. The scene jumps, and Gilligan uses a very clear device, and it's interesting and fun to watch in this scene. We see Walt being brought into an MRI machine, but he's upside down. And this simply sums up Walt's life, both figurative and literally. He is upside down. When Walt emerges from the MRI machine, he is no longer the man that we saw before. It's as if Walt has become the definition of chemistry that he was sharing with his students. We spent the first 20 minutes of this episode watching the growth that he created with the Nobel Prize on the wall, the teaching award, his family, his students, his friends. and we're now seeing in an instant the decay.
Yes.
The prognosis from the doctor in this scene is not audible, and we do not see his entire face. We just see his lips moving with white noise. We learn of the cancer from Walt repeating what the doctor had said. This is the first point where the character of Walt actually takes power from someone else.
How was your day?
He continues to take control from this moment by not sharing the news with anyone in his family or friends. And the transformation of his life is becoming very clear as he stands up to his boss in the next scene at the car wash and leaves. Instead of hunkering down and doing what he's told, he actually stops the movement and moves down. Then, to emphasize the growth and decay, the transformation cycle even further, the director, Vince Gilligan, uses matches to reiterate this cycle. Walt is sitting and he lights a single match. The flame grows, it decays, and then is thrown into a pool of water where it transforms into this floating piece of matter. This one moment is the point where Walt takes up the offer for the ride-along with his brother-in-law to bust this meth lab. At one point, Walt actually corrects Hank, the brother-in-law, about the type of gas that could be created in a mishap at a meth lab while they're waiting. And Walt is really starting to pull power from people around him. They head off, leaving Walt alone in the car, and while waiting for Hank to clear the lab out, there's a slightly comedic scene where Walt sees Jesse Pinkman. We soon learn that Jesse is a former student of Walt's, and he's not too smart. It's really kind of fun because it's the classic guy getting kicked out of the upstairs window, clothes following him, the bare-chested woman yelling in the window. And it's just a nice, lighthearted moment when all these bad things are going wrong for Walt. But in his strongest power play, Walt White actually blackmails a former student, Jesse, to create a meth lab with him and to team up to sell it. Jesse agrees, and there's a nice tone shift here that is done by the director, and that is when Walt takes to the high school science stockroom to borrow whatever he needs to be Chef Boyardee meth. They create this interesting scene by having him move at a much faster pace than we've seen earlier in the episode, and they add the driving funky melody, and here's where music really starts to play into what the characters are doing, feeling, and just being. It gives a sense of confidence, and it's fun because it's clearly broken. He drops a plastic beaker, but when he picks it up, the momentum is right back where it left off. And then when dealing with Jesse, we see Walt truly happy. He's excited to not only be putting his own lab together, but he's teaching and he's given the opportunity to impact a former student's life. No matter how he's going to do it, the opportunity is there. And a nice exchange of power does happen between Jesse and Walt as they discuss where and how to cook and the experience that one has versus the knowledge that the other has. A decision is eventually made to purchase an old motorhome. Walt gives Jesse the money for the new lab, and we get a classic description of plot. Jesse mentions the title of the show, followed by the hurdles and difficulties that the hero, Walt, has to endure.
Come on.
Jesse then tries to pull power from Walt, but is shut down with a great line, and it was Walt just turning and looking at him and saying, "I'm awake." And this signifies that Walt's transformation into the first stage is complete, because later he's shopping with his family. Some young men start making fun of his son, who is physically handicapped, and Walt, for the first time, perhaps stops his wife from dealing with it and takes matters into his own hands. He walks out, and we're like, what happened? And Gilligan once again uses fun, upbeat music to highlight this dark scene. Walt comes in, and he defends his family's honor and gains their respect by kicking this gentleman in the leg and stepping on him. And it's like kind of strange and weird, but this one action, we clearly know as viewers what his motivations are for everything he has done to this point. It's his family. And that gives us a little bit more depth for where it looks like this character might be going. Gilligan then brings us back into the desert from the opening before the credits, and we get answers to some of the questions that were created earlier, such as, why is he not wearing pants or a shirt? Because of the smell of meth. And there's this nice showdown between Jesse and Walt. Walt in his underwear and Jesse fully dressed. They're staring at each other, and the power is certainly in Walt's corner. Jesse knows it. and has to give in. The cook begins, and Gilligan hits us with an upbeat score for the most dangerous and ugly scene so far. The two men clearly have different cooking styles, but manage to mesh together. Jesse basically gets on board with his old chemistry teacher, and things end up going very smoothly, but this scene is set in this banged up old motorhome. Walt is in his underwear, and they're making drugs to this upbeat music with someone dancing with headphones on. Interesting scene, it's done well, and the power struggle is really fun to watch. They get it all finished up, and according to Jesse, who is supposed to be the one that has the knowledge of the meth industry, Walt is an artist, and this is high-end grade, glass grade glass. And the teacher comes out once again as Jesse's like, I have to sample this, and no, you can't. He stops him from trying the drugs. And it was a neat thing to see, because if you got to do the bad things to make certain things happen in your life, you can turn away other things that come with it. In the next scene, Jesse becomes the hero. He goes to meet a business contact. It is clear that Jesse is not considered a player by the way he is treated in their world, in their underground, in their connections, their networking. Jesse really does not have much power or confidence with them. But once they sample the meth that was made, they give it to him wholeheartedly. And Crazy 8, the person he was going to meet, gives him the respect to instantly have Jesse mishandle it out of sheer ego. And this misstep leads to Walt and Jesse having their power stripped away from them by Crazy 8 and his cousin in the next scene. As Walt is preparing to cook the meth for the day, there's something interesting done, and we see that the costumer, Kathleen DeToro, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Kathleen DeToro, she's done some interesting work and given Walt the most color we have seen him in for the entire episode. Done simply with a green apron and a green shirt. If you remember back, the moment when Walt passed out of the car wash was the lady in the green dress. It puts a nice touch on him in what he's doing, because he's not wearing the bland colors. He's taken it upon himself as like, hey, I'm going to wear a green apron today. Maybe he stole it from Starbucks, we don't know. But he's got a little bit more of a skip in his step, he's happier, and the bland colors are gone. But what they do signify is rebirth for Walt. He's completed the next stage of transformation. He is now starting to grow. The growth of the character has begun. And as Emilio and Crazy 8 approach in I believe it's an 80s car, Walt's former life is brought back into play, and he loses all power at the end of a gun. He's standing there basically naked and powerless. In an attempt to stay alive, he offers to teach them how to make the product that he makes. This is Walt falling back on what's worked for him in his former life and using it to his advantage in the new life. As he begins to gain footing and control of the situation, Emilio, full of ego, enters the lab with a lit cigarette. This symbolizes many things. First of all, lung cancer, which Walt has been given a death sentence for. Secondly, danger to everyone in the lab as a fire hazard. And third, the lack of respect that they have for Walt. It's quickly turned into a power play, because Walt, as he asks Emilio to extinguish the cigarette, and he turns and gets validation from Crazy 8, therefore getting people to side with him and team with him. It's a risky move, but it works, and Walt then doubles down to risk everything on the education he has as a chemist and attempts to outsmart the two bad guys. This really does prove to be successful, and Walt is back on his power play. By mixing up some chemicals, he creates a gas and is able to take control of the situation that is going on. It is, however, short-lived, as we see that he is not ready to handle this much control and power, and needs to center to regain control of the situation. Gilligan, the director, uses music again to emphasize how this is playing out. We're now caught up to the opening where we began watching 40-some minutes ago. And a pantless Walt waits to die either by the hand of the cops that we hear coming, because we hear sirens off in the distance, or by his own. He actually puts the gun to his head and pulls the trigger, but as his luck would have it, that does not work. Just as Walt begins to become emotionally overwhelmed, tears are welling up. He's about to just have it. And we learn that the approaching sirens are actually fire trucks that were caused from the lit cigarette Emilio threw out of the motorhome instead of extinguishing it, starting a small desert fire. Jesse, not having known what has happened, rejoins Walt. Control is regained, along with confidence and power between the two. We then see Walt drying his chemical-soaked money in his home dryer. Where else would you do that? With a quick cut to the bedroom, he makes love to his wife in a way that he obviously has not in a very long time. The growth of White Walt into this character has really begun to take form. The closing line says it all, as Walt is, in other less crass terms, making love to his wife. She turns and says, "Walt, is that you?" In another very strange and awkward scene for us. But that's how it ends, and what an exceptional pilot episode. I mean, Gilligan could have clearly made this into a feature-length film that I personally would have gone to see, and I think millions of other people would have as well, but he chose not to. And the episode was left very open-ended. There's so many directions that it can go from here. I'm excited to watch the next one, and it really gives some oomph to the series. Now, as a public service announcement, I really don't like watching shows that promote drug use or prison life being a normal thing for people that live as humans. You should not plan to go to prison like it is college when you are in high school and junior high. You should not plan to be making meth and be watching this as a documentary type of thing. It is a fictional show that might be based on whatever it is. Drugs are bad, okay? That's all I'm going to say about that. That is going to wrap it up for us here at Television in Review. Thanks for joining us, and I hope that you can join us next week. We're going to try to get these knocked out once a week for episode 2 of Breaking Bad. I'm Dre Daly. Good night and good watching.
This episode has the first but not the last appearance of Walt's excuse that he's doing everything for his family.
I live at 308 Negra Arroyo Lane, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87104. To all law enforcement entities, this is not an admission of guilt. I am speaking to my family now.
And at Walt's surprise birthday party, Walt is very awkward when he handles Hank's gun.
Come on, take it.
No, it's just heavy.
That's why they hire men. Hey, it's not gonna bite you, all right? Looks like Keith Richards with a glass of warm milk.
Speaking of Hank, Dean Norris, whose other roles included the TV series Medium and the movies Total Recall and Little Miss Sunshine, he waits until the school bus has left the neighborhood before ordering his team into the meth lab, showing what a good and careful cop he is. Maybe it's just us, but JP1 High School seems to have the most well-equipped high school chemistry lab in the country. As Walt receives his diagnosis, the doctor's voice and all other sounds are drowned out by a kind of numbing ringing, signifying a kind of psychic overload that prevents Walt from being fully engaged with the external world. This effect will be used again several times throughout the series.
Mr. White?
Yes.
You understood what I've just said to you.
Yes. Lung cancer. Inoperable.
And Walt literally launders his money to dry it out, foreshadowing what's to come.
I'm walking out really down in a cool breeze. I'm gonna be late. again. Driver, wait for me, please. I'm running all in vain, trying to catch this train.
Look at that tape non-confession Walt makes for his family when he thinks the cops are coming for him. And we're used to watching recordings of characters, shows that are filmed or taped. But here, we're watching him recording himself on tape. So who's the real Walt?
Breaking Bad, to break bad, is an old Southern expression that I heard a lot growing up in my home state of Virginia. And what it means is to raise hell. So you'd say, oh man, I really broke bad the other night. I got way too drunk and wound up in the back of a squad car and spent the night in jail. And when I named the pilot episode Breaking Bad, only then did I realize that this was a Southern regionalism and not a phrase widely known in the United States. The executive at Sony, who I was dealing with, said, I like everything but the title. What the hell does the title mean? But Breaking Bad kind of stuck nonetheless, even though I got a little bit of pressure to change it. And I'm glad now that it's become a little more widely known.
There is some evidence that methamphetamine can be found naturally in several species of Acacia plants. Commercial meth making involves chemistry, not agriculture. The history of the drug dates back to 1893, when Japanese chemist Nagia Nagiyoshi first synthesized the substance from ephedrine. Crystal meth is a very pure, extremely potent form of methamphetamine that is usually smoked like crack cocaine, but could also be crushed, snorted, injected, or even inserted into the anus or urethra where it dissolves into the bloodstream. Prolonged meth use can result in rapid decay and loss of teeth, known as meth mouth. Drug-related psychosis that can cause and persist for weeks, months, or even years after use is discontinued. And oh yeah, death. Crystal meth is highly addictive and is such a horrific, vicious drug. And make no mistake, what Walt and Jesse are doing is a bad thing. Fortunately, you don't need a trained chemist like Walter White to whip up a batch of meth. In fact, there are many recipes for home cooking meth, and one of the most popular uses of a method that sounds downright patriotic is a red, white, and blue method. The red is red phosphorus, white is ephedrine or pseudoephedrine, and blue is iodine, used to make hydroiodic acid. The cook obtains these ingredients from items such as lye, anhydrous, without water, ammonia, iodine, hydrochloric acid, matches, ephedrine, which is found in sinus medications such as Sudafed, drain cleaner, ether, lighter fluid, and brake fluid. Ew.
Meth labs are nasty on a good day. You mix that shit wrong and you got mustard gas.
Phosphine gas. I think.
Yeah.
Mustard gas, the poster child for World War I chemical weapons. As if these chemicals weren't scary enough, mustard gas was unleashed by Germany in 1917. Mustard gas was the most effective and widely publicized gas of the entire war. However, it wasn't a particularly effective killing agent, though in high enough doses it is fatal. The reason it was so terrifying is that mustard gas was painful, caused huge yellow blisters, and incapacitated a person just by touching their skin. Gas masks did not work against this stuff. Not only that, it didn't go away like other gases. When other gases were used against an enemy, they would, eventually disperse. The wind would just blow them away. Not so with mustard gas. It was heavy and sunk into crevices and trenches, then stayed there for weeks, months, even years. So the Germans found that it was quite difficult to attack the enemy with mustard gas and then advance to the enemy's position.
Phosphine gas has no effect on the skin and causes only mild to moderate irritation to the eyes, but produces rapid and horrific effects if inhaled. Low-level, short-term exposure can cause coughing and severe lung irritation. Neurological effects include dizziness, convulsions, and coma. Results of long-term or high-level exposure to phosphine gas, as in a poorly ventilated RV for example, include pulmonary edema, convulsions, damage to the kidney, liver, and heart, and death. Meth isn't the only thing that gets cooked on Breaking Bad. Meals are a big part of the show, indicating how things are going at any given time. Is the White family sitting down to a home-cooked meal? Or is it a dinner? Or takeout? And while it's a well-known fact that teenage boys can wolf down copious quantities of food, it is Junior, aka Flynn, who eats more breakfasts than should be allowed by law. In fact, Breaking Bad has sprung up drinking games around Junior's breakfasts. So keep an eye out as to how many times you see him at the breakfast table. Walt's home life has an important marker associated with breakfast: the birthday bacon. For his 50th birthday at the start of Season 1, breakfast is a celebration with Skyler spelling out 50 and veggie bacon on his plate. There will be 2 future instances of bacon spelling out something for Walter. So watch how much his circumstances
How does it feel to be a
have
smart
changed each time.
One of us deals with the body situation, while the other one of us deals with the Crazy 8 situation.
Are you smoking weed? Wait a minute, is that my weed? What the hell, man?